Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have in a Mazda 3 and customer complaints that the brake pedal keeps going hard. So we're going to diagnose it, do some testing with the diagnostics, and I'll show you exactly what the fault is and what you need to fix it. So the first thing we need to do is plug in our diagnostic equipment and we're going to run a code scan. But on this vehicle you get an engine malfunction warning come up in here, and this little yellow triangle light stays on, and when you run a code scan we're going to get this code here, P258B, vacuum pump control circuit A range performance fault. So what we can do to test this is if we go into the PCM, and then we can see that we can read our data stream. And what we want to be looking at is this one here, brake booster pressure sensor. So if we click onto that, and we're just going to change that to kPa. So as it sits, it's 72.5 kPa, engine's not running. If you press the brake pedal, it goes to 100, which is atmospheric pressure, and then when you release off. So when we start the vehicle, what we're looking for on the brake booster pressure sensor is around 7 kPa. Anything under 10 kPa would mean it has a good brake booster pressure sensor reading, and this reading is created by the vacuum pump which is run off the cam on this engine, which I'll show you in a minute. And what that should do is when you press the brake pedal, obviously that number should go up, but it should drop down fairly quickly to under 10. And as you can see, this one is taking a very long time. Even if we pick the revs up a little bit, so even with the revs up, it's still dropping very, very slowly. We're just going to see if that will go any lower. So at idle, it should be under 10 kPa. And as we can see here, that's not going down any further than 15. If we press the brake pedal, the number will go up, and it should drop down within sort of 10-15 seconds to under 10 kPa. But this one seems to be hovering up quite high, which in turn means that we're not getting any vacuum created by our vacuum pump, which means over a long period of time that's going to fail and your brake pedal will go hard. So now we've seen that, we can now confirm that the vacuum pump is going bad. And if we come round to the engine bay here, this is the 2.2 Sky Active engine diesel. The vacuum pump is this bit just here. To change it is fairly simple. You just take off this air pipe. You can take the battery tray out and the airbox if you want to get access to the side here. It's only held on by a couple of bolts. You undo these 2 8mm at the top here and lift this up slightly so you can get to one of the bolts, and we'll pull that off and put the new one on. Once you put the new one on, you can do the same test on the code scanner, and that would be under 10 kPa. Okay, so it's been a few days. We've got our part coming from main dealer, so now what we're going to do is strip this area down so we can get the vacuum pump out and replace it with the new one. First things we need to do is remove the air pipe, and this is the vacuum pump right here. So we just need to move everything around it so we can get access to get to the bolts. We have a 10mm holding this pipe onto a bracket. clamp at the back there. Once we undo that, we can just move that out of the way. Now we can start to see the 10mm bolts that are holding the servo pump on. We're just going to get these few lines out of the way so we can get it off. Once we remove the battery, we have more access, so we can just move this bracket out of the way if we need to. Okay, so we're just speeding up this part of the video here, and what I'm doing is I'm undoing all the bolts to hold the bracket on, and we're just going to try and move this boost pipe at the bottom here. Just going to take off this top pipe here that's connected to the servo and the lower one. Then we're going to undo the 2 8mm on the top there, just so that part becomes loose. And then what we need to try and do now is undo all the bolts for the bracket. We just need to undo this Jubilee clip that holds the turbo boost pipe. And there's another clip on the other end of it, which we need to take out, because we want to remove this completely out of the way so we get full access. As you can see, it is very tight in there. But we undo all the 12mm bolts that hold this bracket in place, so that can move out of the way. This boost pipe was a bit tight to get out, but it does pop out in the end. You need to take that out so you can get to the last 12mm holding that bracket on. Once the bracket's undone, you can move it out of the way. Then you've got the 10mm on the actual servo pump itself. There's 4 of those. Once you undo those 4 10mm, as you can see here, you lift up that top part to get your socket onto the top bolt. Then we undo the 2 lower ones. Now we've undone all of our bolts and taken them out, the servo will be loose. We're going to try and get it out without taking off these fuel lines. See if we can. If not, we will have to take one off. It looks like it's a bit too tight on this line here, so we're just going to undo that fuel line, move it out of the way. Now with that line undone, we can take the servo out. And that's our old servo there. What happens is dirt and debris get inside, and as it spins it's not creating the vacuum it needs to create, so we're just going to replace this unit and get the new one installed. So here we have our brand new one, and what we want to do is just make sure that the orientation of this part that sits in the end of the cam is the same, so when it goes back in it lines up on the cam perfectly. So we're just going to check the end of the cam just to make sure it's not broken or damaged. I'm going to clean it up a little bit. So once we've cleaned up all the surface area, as you can see there, it's all nice and clean, ready for the new gasket. You can see the slot in the end of the camshaft there. So like I say, just make sure as you take the old one out, you note the orientation that it goes back on. So when you put it back on, you can seal it up nice and it won't give you any problems. So let's get the new one, pop it back in the hole. You want to make sure your new one comes with a nice new gasket on there. And like I say, the orientation of this is the same. If it doesn't slot in easy, like just then, just take it back out, readjust it ever so slightly, and then go back in. And you'll know when it's back in because it will just sit flush with the head, and then you'll be able to get your bolts back in and do them up. Now you have all your bolts in, we can do them up. Now all of our bolts are done up nice and tight, we're just going to pop all these pipes back on in reverse order, the same way we took them off. And pop our boost pipe back on. We'll just do up this lead clip. Okay, so now we've got our new vacuum pump all fitted on, everything's back together. Let's go and start it up and we'll test whether it's worked. Okay, so now it's running. We can see the light, the triangle light has gone off. So we're going to go back into our PCM. And we're just going to look for our brake boost pressure. We'll change it to kPa, and already it's at 7.6. So if we press the brake pedal, it will go up, and then as soon as we release, it should come back down. It's come down a lot faster than before, and this is at idle. And like we say, it should come down below 10. 7.6 is the perfect kPa that you want. There, so now we know our servo is working absolutely perfectly. Brake on, brake off, and it's coming down. So now we're going to have a perfect brake pedal. So all we'll do is we'll go back, we'll run a full code scan of the vehicle. As you can see, the PCM is now green, which means it's all good. It will take a little while to start up the first time because obviously you had the fuel line off, so there will be a little bit of air in the system. But once it's completed this code scan, we'll clear any codes down. Turn the engine off, turn the ignition on, clear all the faults down. There we go, all green. Start it back up, and she runs lovely. So there you have it. If you have a Mazda with a P258B code where your brake pedal keeps going hard, you need a servo, and that's how you change it. If you like the content, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.